Check, check, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
How I
you're
sound?
good.
One,
You're
two,
good.
three.
You're good.
Right.
First, I want to thank you for being on my podcast. I appreciate it. Can you hear
Oh
me?
man, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Um, so we won't say who, but you're coaching two of my friends. I think two of my friends, and that's how I heard about you. And I thought this was a great way to because I can't control them. I thought this was a great way to indirectly control them is through you. So that's what this is
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, feed it to me and I'll relay it over to them.
Yeah, I'm just gonna tag team. It's like okay, finally I have a Trojan horse. I have someone on the inside because
And I won't say who. I won't say who.
yeah. And when you're friends with someone, because they think I'm silly and they don't take me seriously. I mean, they probably on the inside, but on the outside because we're boys. When it comes to things like self betterment, they just see me as John. So
Right.
now I have Mike, my
Right.
my superpower.
Mike, your Trojan horse. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
go right into their hearts, and I'm
yeah.
gonna plant John Kim's seeds into their hearts.
Yeah, but I actually, all jokes aside, I have heard great things about you, and we have many. And then it turns out we have many mutual friends, right,
Mhm.
or people we know. But what I'm interested in is because where we overlap is our passion to help people, but also specifically men. So,
Mm.
how did that all start for you? Like, how did your fire in your belly to help men? Tell me the birth of that.
So I spent most of my career in education, working with
Mm,
young people. I think similarly to you, you're working with young people
yeah.
with addiction, right?
Yeah.
So I was working with young people who were suffering through depression, suicidal attempts, suicidal ideation, eating disorders. And I worked really closely with young people who didn't have an outlet to express any of that. And the work was super powerful, man. I loved what I do, but there was something in me that was calling out to do something greater.
Yeah.
And I was working with a young woman. She was like, oh my God, like maybe 12 or 13. And she had just confided in me that she,
Oh,
um,
young. Like this is like
young,
yeah, so I worked with high
middle
school.
school.
Oh, you're in middle school.
Yeah.
Got it. Got
So
it.
I worked with all ages, but
Right.
most of my career I worked with uh, kids during puberty and then in high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. Sponges.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
And so this young woman was like basically confided to me that she had been raped by her
Mm,
uncle, and
hmm.
consecutive, like it was over a period of time from the age of 3 to then. And I was like, this is freaking nuts. I had worked with young people who had gone through similar situations, sexual abuse, rape, but for some reason, this young woman really struck me.
Mm,
And it was something about her story that I really connected with. I am a sexual abuse survivor. Similar to her, close family member that was sexually abusing me over a course of several years.
yeah.
And so something clicked in my heart, man. And I was like, why am I the first adult to hear this from her?
Mm. Not
Why
only
am
that, but
I
I love that. I love that she trusted you and your mail.
totally,
Yeah.
totally?
Yeah.
And so that sparked something in me. I just kind of got curious about where the fuck are all the adults at, right?
Yeah.
This young girl sees adults all day, 5 days a week at school, several adults a day, and yet I am the very first person in the last 7 years that she's told
Mm,
about her sexual abuse and her rape. And so that kind of clicked something in my heart. I was like, okay, cool. What's next? What's next? What's next? And it took me about 3 years to figure out what the hell coaching was and
right.
to get into it. And
So wait.
so
So what year was this when you had this collision and then it ignited something in you? This like 3 years ago, 5 years?
2014 was when I had that young woman come
Mm,
up to me. And then
okay.
2016, 17 is when I started to like put my hands in different things. And
Yeah.
end of 2016 is when I found out what coaching was,
Mm,
and immediately got into a program. I went to Coaches Training Institute. And it was through that program that my master coach, kind of coached me into a niche. And she was like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to do retreats. I just want to
yeah.
host retreats. She's like, for who? I'm like, for men. And she's like, great. next time we meet, you're going to have put down a deposit on a campground. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to run a retreat. I've never done this before. She's like, it's okay. We'll figure that out. Just put your deposit in. So I put down a $500 deposit, came back, and I was like, let's do this. And so that kind of transformed into men's work, and then reading statistics around men's mental health. 6 million men are diagnosed with depression every year. The highest demographic of suicides in America are committed by men ages 45 to 65. Men are less likely to ask for help.
Right.
Loneliness is an epidemic, and it impacts more men than women, right? And so like I started reading all these different statistics, and I was like, wow, like I'm a male. I identify as a male. Why haven't I known anything about this? And why aren't there that many resources for us men? Where the hell are all the resources at? Where are all the men's groups? And at the time, I only knew about Mankind Project really lightly, very, very lightly. And so then I just started doing my own thing. It was first called The Authentic Man, and then I changed our brand and called it, now it's The Unshakable Man. Yeah, man, we're a men's emotional awareness program. We help men kind of get aware of who they are and their emotions so that they can be productive in this world.
So do you run retreats now, or because of the pandemic, it's now gone online, or you do both?
So before the pandemic, I was running retreats, and I was doing them through Everyman. Are you familiar with Everyman?
I don't. I've seen him on social media, but I don't know a lot about him.
Yeah, so I work really closely with Everyman as a facilitator and as a men's group facilitator. And so before the pandemic, we were throwing like 10 retreats a year.
Wow. How long? Tell me about these retreats. How long are they? And what are you doing? Because I could imagine, and this is a generalization, but men tend to go on retreats for activities, not to sit in a circle and talk about their feelings, right? So how do you lure them in?
Well, they're always that choice, man. They are, they volunteer for this. They come in on their own accord, right? And so sometimes we do get guys who their partners kind of force them to go. They kind of get an ultimatum. They're like, hey, like here's some retreats, pick one and go to one, and then let's start working on a relationship. But really, I think a lot of guys come into it thinking that they need a change. They're not quite sure what the change is, but they need to do something different in their life. And
what happens in the retreat? Like, what's the structure?
So most of our retreats are 3 days.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So Friday evening, it's less than 48 hours actually, because it starts Friday evening and then it ends Sunday afternoon. And it's packed with connection, with exercises, with opening up. And then also we do outdoor activities. So in Joshua Tree, we go into Joshua Tree National Park. We do vision quests. We do mini vision quests. We do anger ceremonies.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And
wait. What's a describe a vision quest? What is that exactly? That sounds very interesting. That sounds different. That sounds, that sounds like something that I, as a man, would be interested in. Like that would pique my interest, a vision quest. Yeah. There's adventure behind that.
We do a mini vision quest, but traditionally a vision quest, like a full-on vision quest, can be from 3 days to 10 days. And it is, you are by yourself in nature.
Oh, shit.
And you're fasting the entire time.
Oh, so it is challenging. So it is. Yeah. So mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, it's all of that. Wow.
Yeah.
Have you lost people on that? Have people not come back?
We've had to make an agreement to tell guys, like, if you're going to leave, let us know that you're going to leave, because then we get into freak out mode and we're like, this is like deep emotional work. And sometimes that can bring up a lot of things for guys.
Sure.
And, our survival responses come up. And when our survival responses come up and when we get into conflict or we get into something tough, sometimes it's to flee, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, of course.
And so we get guys that are like, I'm not doing this. This is way too uncomfortable for me. I got to go. So sometimes we'll get guys who those show up the first night, and the next morning we're like, where the heck are John and
Right.
Mike at?
Right.
Where did they go?
They called an Uber.
Yeah.
So is that the peak of the retreat, is building up to this vision quest, or is that like day one?
That's day 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. So you're,
So I would say the peak is probably Saturday. I mean, if you are familiar with facilitating anything that has any kind of curriculum or scaffolding,
yep.
I know we have like with the emphasis on mental wellness and mental health, there has to be a way to lightly bring guys into this.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I'm not saying that the first exercise we do is light. Actually, the first exercise we do is pretty fucking tough. And all it is making eye contact with people.
Oh shit!
That's
Wait,
it is.
Is this the one where you're literally sitting down, just looking at the other person for maybe 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's heavy lifting. Dude, I did that with a female once, someone I was dating, and it was difficult. We tried it for 10 minutes. People cry and shit. That's like no joke. I can't imagine two men, especially if they're not used to being open.
And being strangers.
To stare at each other's. I mean, I can imagine men just getting up and walking out, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We often get guys who the first meeting, the first circle we get, they're like, one foot is out the door. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. I decided to sign up, but I'm feeling uncomfortable. I don't think this is for me.
Yeah.
But what's amazing about that is the awareness that they have, right? That's all. We accept all that. We want you to feel that. We want you to come in however you want. If you're excited, if you're happy, if you feel joy, come in. But if you're feeling angry, pissed, frustrated, if you're feeling sad, grief, come in with that too. If you're feeling shame, bring it all in. And what happens is, over the course of literally only 48 hours, guys leave this retreat and they are transformed.
Oh, I can imagine, because of the amount of stuff that comes up, right? The emotional arc that you go through in those 3 days, because you're doing things that you don't ever do, in everyday life, right? Like stare at each other.
Right. But also it's like, it may be for the first time in a really long time for these guys to feel what true connection is.
Oh, interesting.
Or what intimacy is with another man.
Yeah.
Right?
And so now
what also affection is too with another man.
Right. And now we're getting into, guys who grew up in locker rooms, right? A lot of my friends, a lot of athletes, the definition of man being, shut down, I could fix things, performance based, and things like eye contact with another man is quote unquote gay. And then them being, don't want to be that. So they joke about it and all of that. So to actually expose them to that, I think is, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you got to shock the system.
Yeah.
Right? You got to shock the system to let the guys know that something's not working, to help them figure out what to do next. I mean, I feel like the entire retreat, we go into very safe spaces, and in a safe container, we go into, holy shit, I'm in survival mode, back to, okay, I'm back in parasympathetic, my body's calm. And then coming back into sympathetic, and then fight, flight, or freeze, and then come back into parasympathetic and calm. And so when we get guys to go through these roller coasters, they leave feeling like, oh my God, like I feel like that was an emotional workout.
Yeah.
And I want to continue doing this work.
Yeah.
I want to continue moving forward with this. And we often get guys who come home from a retreat and their partners are like, oh my God, you are completely a different person.
Sure.
You're a completely different dad, a different partner, a different man. Yeah,
so you guys are like the first domino. You guys are the people that become maybe the soil, or become the inciting incident for the man to go on some kind of inner journey.
I don't think so.
No?
I think, what I tell my coaching clients and the guys that come to our retreats or our men's group is, your transformation started before we even met. You knew something wasn't working.
Okay. So something happened before for them to get where you guys are. Yeah.
Right. Even if that was their partner shining a mirror on their face and being like, look at this, look at your reflection. This isn't working. I feel like that is the catalyst. Like, oh my God, I got to do something about this. And then I just get to be the person that gets to put the nutrients in and water the seed, to put the light
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, let's put a bookmark there. I want to know more about you and your story. So, where did you grow up?
I'm a Bay Area native, man.
Oh,
I
okay.
grew up in the Bay Area, grew up in San Jose, spent most of my time in the East Bay, and then most recently in Oakland.
What
And
ethnicity are you?
Filipino,
Oh, okay. Filipino.
full Filipino.
Nice. Yeah. I'm Korean, and I get that a lot, just because I have darker skin. People think
I
I'm
can see that.
Filipino.
I can
Yeah.
see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you also have a broader nose,
Yeah. I got
like a
the fat.
Filipino nose.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what I think.
I used to hate my nose, man. My grandma used to say I had an upside down strawberry nose, and she said that if I squeezed it for a long time, it would sharpen. And I grew up with a lot of Caucasian people with sharp noses, and I always felt left out. I felt like I had a big fat nose, and so when I was 10, I used to just sit in the bathroom in the dark and just squeeze my nose for like a very long time. Yeah, it didn't work.
Very similar. I mean, very similar to some of my upbringing, and like we would hear stories of like putting tape on your nose, putting it down, or like putting tape on the eyes to like open it up a little bit. It's just like some fucking internal fucking hate. And
well, so when you grew up, did you was that a thing, being a minority, or in San Francisco was it easier?
So what's interesting is I grew up in San Jose, and a part of San Jose where I thought I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood and a diverse school. But the reality is I like a third were Filipino, a third were Vietnamese, a third were Latino. And then there's like a smattering of Black people and white people. And I thought, this is diverse. I moved to Fremont, California in high school, and 50% of my school was white.
Oh, right.
And then a quarter were Black, and then a quarter were Latino. And I was like, no, this is diversity here.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really until I got into high school where I felt I was different from everyone else, where I felt like I didn't quite fit in with everyone else.
And what did you think was different about you? Wait, what year did you graduate? I know you're younger than me, but I'm trying to get a sense of timeline.
2005.
Okay, 2005. So at that time in high school, what was different about you? What did you feel was different? Was it the color of your skin, or was it other things?
Color of my skin. It was also how I dressed.
Oh.
I came from East Side San Jose, where we wore like baggy pants and FUBU and like like we wore Adidas and Filas and like big gear. And then I come to high school and people are listening to Blink-182, they're listening to like Thrice, they're listening to Sum 41, Linkin Park, and for me to fit in, I went from immediately wearing like baggy pants to skinny, more form-fitting pants, more form-fitting clothes. And so I felt different in that, but I also felt different because I'm gay. And so as a closeted young man, and also I grew up Christian. And so I had all these competing ideas or competing stories of who I needed to be.
So in high school, you were in the closet in high school. No one knew, or did you come out?
No one knew. No. I didn't come out until I was in college.
Okay.
Until I was 23. Yeah.
So what was that like during your high school years to be, now wearing skinny jeans, being closeted, also being a minority? What did you do with all of that? Did you just kind of stuff it inside and just, started wearing baggy clothes and try to fit in? Now you're listening to Blink-182, or did you stand on your truth? I'm assuming you didn't until college, right?
Yeah, man. No, man. I tried to fit in as much as I could. But I think it's human nature for us to want to belong somewhere.
Oh yeah, since I've come to America, it's been subconsciously trying to fit in.
Right. Yeah. And so I feel like I'm very good at blending in with people. I feel like in so many ways that's a superpower of mine, to be like this like chameleon who can step into any situation and just kind of be okay. And blend in. And so my high school experience was actually pretty fucking awesome. I loved high school.
So you didn't get bullied or anything because you blended in.
No.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, but now I was also really good at like hiding my
Right.
sexuality
Right. Right.
and all of that. And I also joined theater and choir. So I was like, I was playing basketball, but I was also doing theater and choir. And basketball, I didn't really felt like I fit in there. And so I quit basketball and I was like, I'm going to go join the theater folks. And right when I joined the theater folks and the choir folks, it just blended in. It was just so easy for me.
You know, what's cool is, speaking of Trojan horse, which we're joking about, because the energy I get from you is wide. Like there's a spectrum of sensitivity, charismatic, but also you mentioned sports, right? So you're probably athletic, and then you mentioned things like choir. So I'm assuming with all of those things, it almost created a shield. Like you actually wore you were a Trojan horse going into high school as someone probably who was popular, not picked on, and was able to fit in anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of my shadow,
Mm,
right? That's
yeah.
part of my shadow is
Yeah.
I have this ability to blend in. And in so many ways, it was a hero to me. It was a protector for me. But I
Right.
also find myself coming into situations where I don't feel like I'm being true to myself.
Right.
I feel like I'm putting up this this facade or this character, I would put it,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in so many ways, uh, it's been my shadow and it's been my work to look at the places in my life and the relationship that I have. And I don't want to get rid of it because I think it's a really beautiful quality that I have.
Mm-hmm.
But my work has been these last 10 years to integrate it. How can I integrate it more? How can I bring that part of me into my core, into who
Right.
I am as a man? Right.
Oh,
And I feel like I've really overcome the shame around being
right.
like that.
Yeah. At what point did you start to step out of your shadow? Was it related to also coming out?
Totally.
Yeah. And then
Oh
was
my
that,
God, man, 100%.
tell me about that. Is that in college?
It was in college. I was a senior in college. I was graduating, and I just got to this point, man, where I was just hurting so many people. I was
Mm,
hurting women. I was sleeping around with women. I was dating women, and also simultaneously, back then we didn't have Grindr. We didn't have
right.
these other gay apps. We had Craigslist, which is it's its own risky kind of way of dating or sleeping around, right?
Casual encounters.
Casual encounters, yeah,
Yeah.
men seeking men, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so, and the shame that I had forced me to engage in risky behaviors like that because I didn't have any other outlet. And so I was hurting myself, and I
Mm,
was paranoid about getting sexually transmitted infection.
yeah.
And I was also dating women and sleeping with women. And so I was being dishonest in all these different areas in my life, while also simultaneously I was in the church, and in my head was always, you're gay, no you're not, you're gay, no you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Nights staying up, crying, thinking about it, praying to God, like, why am I like this?
Did you
why is this test for me?
did you sleep with women because you're trying to convince yourself maybe you're not gay, or did you sleep with women as a way to hide behind it? You know what I'm saying? As a way to
Both, man.
show the world.
Most of it was, I was hanging out with a bunch of guys who, what we did was we'd go out and party and bring girls home, right? That
Right,
was
right,
our thing. Thursday,
right,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's what we were doing.
right.
And so part of it was to, again, belong, to step into this community and feel like I was part of something. But
Yeah.
also a part of it was I felt like I was sick,
Mm,
and praying wasn't working. Praying to God wasn't working.
mm.
So maybe the more I slept with women, maybe I can feel a different connection towards women. Maybe I can heal
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Well, also I know in
Integrate.
college, especially with dudes, sleeping with women is it's like you get badges. They're like
Oh my
trophies you
God.
get. It's a I had a great high school experience. I did not have a good college experience as a commuter school. And I remember the friends around me who were popular and in fraternities and stuff, people in the hundreds club, meaning they've slept with 100 women at that age. And I was like, I wasn't in there, but I remember feeling left out. I remember feeling like, wow, how can I sleep with more women? How can I get more
Yeah.
attention? How can it be more attractive? But for someone who's gay, were those experiences even, were they good or bad? Like, how were you intimate with women physically if that wasn't your thing?
I don't know if this is going to be too risque for your podcast,
No,
but I
no,
mean,
no. There's nothing too risque.
yo, man, here's a reality. The reality is if you're going to like put your hand on my dick, it's going to get hard.
Right. So yeah,
Right?
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also at that age in college, it just takes the win.
Hey, man, I'm practically still going through puberty, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like 21, 22. I'm still
Right.
practically going through puberty and still like exploring what it means to have sex.
Right. At 47, you got to buy me dinner. I need you to read me a poem. Tell me you love me. Yeah. But yeah, in your 20s, you're right. You could mentally just think of an image and boom, it's on.
Yeah, totally, man. And so it felt very dishonest because I would be sleeping with women and thinking about men.
Right.
Now, was it pleasurable? Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Physically.
Pleasurable.
Yeah.
Physically. It's
You're still turned on.
Very pleasurable. Absolutely. 100%. But I also felt like, I remember during intercourse, I could feel like, oh my God, this does not feel right. This is not for me.
Yeah.
And then afterwards feeling guilt of like being with a woman and laying in bed and feeling like, wow, this is so not my nature.
Fraudulent. Yeah. It's false advertising. So she is into you. And also for most women, especially at that age, it's an emotional connection. So now they're possibly having feelings for you.
Well, and that's part of, part of the shadow that I have is the ability to bring people in. Right. Like I have a very warm personality. I have a very charismatic personality in so many ways. Like I've done that to be liked.
Right.
I've had this identity to help feel like I belong with people and to belong in different groups of people.
Yeah.
And so
which is a gift and also can be a curse. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's I think it's beautiful that if we are aware of what these shadows are, then we can start to integrate these shadows into our lives, and so that they can continue to be not a protector, but a provider for us. How can we be productive with this?
Yeah.
And so man, like in my last year of college, I was just like really starting to question my own beliefs. And
like everything.
Yeah. Most of my beliefs around God.
Yeah.
Because in my church, I haven't actually really talked about this, but I was raised in a cult, and it was pretty severe. But the first thing that they ever taught us was homosexuality was a sin.
Yeah.
And so at a really young age, from the time that I knew my sexual identity at around 8, 9, or 10, I knew that I was a sinner, and I knew that I was sick. And so it took me over a decade for me to come to terms and say, you know what, I think I'm actually gay. And so I finally came out, and I came out to my mom, and it was probably one of the hardest experiences of my life. But also,
how did she respond to that as an Asian woman?
Yo, man, she put her hand up. First, it was like complete denial.
Yeah.
Like, no. This is a phase that you're going through, and like I pray for you, and like, like maybe it's just infatuation, maybe you just like you just love like hanging around with men. I'm like, nah, Mom, like I watch gay porn.
Yeah. Well, also, wait, at what age was this?
23.
Oh, got it. Okay, so you weren't 12 telling your mom, because parents can be very dismissive at that age, right? Because you're so young. So 23, okay, so you're already an adult.
Yeah, so 23, and she and I didn't talk to her for 6 months. She refused to talk to me.
Oh, wow. Did you also tell her about the sexual abuse or no?
No. No. And so she was like, you know what? You need to go talk to your uncle about this. And at the time, my uncle was my best friend, my father figure growing up, hung out with him all the time. He taught me how to play basketball, taught me how to shave, taught me how to tie a tie, like all the fatherly things. And I always thought that he was going to be the best man at my wedding. And so came out to him. He was the second person I came out to, and same thing. Put his hand out. He rejected me, abandoned me, and I haven't talked to him since. It's been
Oh,
about 10
wow.
years.
Yeah.
And so over the next 6 months, I spiraled down into this crazy, crazy deep depression, where I contemplated suicide all the time. Thought about the plan, thought about how I was going to do it, thought about when, thought about how much this was going to hurt people. And that's what I wanted. I wanted my life to
Yeah.
hurt people. I wanted
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
death to hurt people. I wanted to be spiteful about it.
Well, it was your way of revenge, right? It was your way of
Totally.
getting the power back. It's like, oh, you guys are going to put your hand out. Okay, let me hurt you because I have power over my own life. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it took me months and months for me to really own that I'm a gay man. And my
Wait,
mentor actually,
where was dad? Or did you grow up with just mom?
no, dad was in the picture, but dad actually didn't know that I was gay until 2 years later.
Got it.
Yeah. And he found out through the grapevine with my cousins and my aunts and uncles. And then he and I didn't talk for 2 years
Wow.
after he found out I was gay.
Do you think cultural plays a factor in this?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
probably. Yeah, because
Even
I think also me being Korean, I'm trying to imagine what would happen in my situation. My parents being old school, and from a different generation.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be really tough. It wouldn't be accepted.
Yeah. I mean, most of my
Initially.
family are Catholics.
Yeah.
And so, in the Philippines, there's this interesting dynamic that's happening right now with the LGBTQ community out there where, like in entertainment, LGBTQ people are totally accepted,
Right. Right.
but they're usually like the butt of the joke, right? Like we have
Yeah, they're performers, right?
they're performers,
They're not in
right?
the house, that kind of
And
thing.
so by like the culture in the community, they are like held up on a pedestal. They're
Yeah.
loved and
Yeah.
they are honored. If there's a gay person in your family,
Yeah. Then it's shame and yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think my father had some of that in him. But what really helped my father were his brothers and sisters who surprisingly to me came to him and said, "Hey, like this is your son. You need to love him. We know about him and it's okay with us. So you need to reach out and you need to reconnect with your son." And he did. He did.
Oh, good. How is it
Yeah.
now? How's your relationship with your dad now?
Beautiful, man.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, I get tender just thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my father and I didn't have a relationship for over 30 years.
Oh, man.
And
So you must have been super thirsty for that,
oh my God,
just because
man.
he's
And
your
like,
dad.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
growing up, I like looked at how I responded to adult males in my life and how I craved adult males in my life. And
Yeah.
I fortunately and luckily had adult males in my life who were like, yeah, I'll take you in. Like I'll be your big brother. I'll be your father. And my father was never like that for me. And so last year, I had an opportunity to go out to the Philippines. My dad lives in the Philippines, and for work. And I went out there for a week, and I just hit him up, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, like I want to be out here for a week, and I'm thinking about extending my trip. If you're willing to spend a week with me." And he was like, "Yeah, that's great." And so the next day, he sends me a message, and he's like, "I have everything planned. We're going to go to Palawan. We're going to go to El Nido. We have these boat trips. I've booked a hotel. I'm doing
Wow.
this. We're doing this." And man, it was the first time in my life that I felt like my father cared about me.
Yeah.
I
Wait,
felt
how did he have you when he was young? How old is he now?
my father, my father's in his 60s.
Oh, he is young.
He had me when he was like in his early 30s.
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 33.
Oh man. Okay. So I mean, 60s, he is young. Is he active? Is he, I mean, you guys are going and doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's living the life in the Philippines, man. And
Wow.
I got to spend a week and a half with he and my stepmom, and it was beautiful. It was, one of the I think what's beautiful about spending some time with my parents is I get to see all the shit that I don't like about myself and be like and like look at and see my parents as like a mirror and look at how they respond or react to the world and how they navigate through the world and pick and choose like, oh shit, like that's exactly what I do. Oh, my father getting pissed off and angry.
Right.
Oh, that's exactly what I do.
Right.
Or my father being charismatic and loving to the community. That's
Right.
exactly what I do. And so it was an opportunity for me to spend time with my father, get to know him, but also deeply get to know my roots and who I am, and all the characteristics that I picked up from him.
How does seeing that in your parents connect you to you? How does seeing that in your parents affect your relationship with yourself?
That's a great question, man. I think growing up, and especially as like I was just diving into just admitting that I was gay, I got to see how my parents responded to conflict, right? And my parents, the way that my parents respond to conflict is everything's okay, I'm fine. Put up this mask, put up this wall,
right,
denial.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything's fine. But then once everything keeps piling up and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, then there's like a breaking point and we snap. And I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Right? Especially with anger. Anger for me is like stuff. And all of a sudden my balloons burst and I'm like, ooh, rage. I'm out here. I'm gonna fucking hurt you. And but also seeing how my mom and my father are so warm to people. Right. Like I see my parents' anger. I'm like, okay, cool. I have the same kind of reaction as my parents. But then I see how my parents are with people and how warm they are and how open and accepting they are to their community. And I feel like that's a really deep reflection on who I am as a man.
Yeah.
And so I get to pick all those parts and I get to say, cool, like I want to strengthen this. And then I also want to strengthen this. And then I want to like bring this thing down right here. How can I bring my energy and my charisma down to a neutral level so it isn't so performative? And how can I bring my anger up so then I'm not isolating myself and then I snap in rage, but how can I be more assertive?
Yeah. Which is a lifelong practice.
Oh my gosh.
I was a walking reaction most of my life, man. Hence the angry therapist. I was very angry, a shell of a person, always chasing shiny things, trying to fit in, had no sense of self, struggled saying no, all of that stuff. So, and now being 47, I feel like I'm just pedaling the bike, getting the hang of it. And of course, we snap back and there's tugs that we feel that, remind us of who we used to be. Right?
Yeah. And, I think that's beautiful. I think in this work, I often get people who will have these like highs and lows in their development. Right. And when we first kick off our relationship, it's like, boom, hi, like, great. I'm like on this, this like kick of personal development. And as we start to get to know ourselves, we start to get calm about who we are and become neutral about who we are, then we don't feel the highs as much.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get the confusion of like, if I'm not feeling a high, then that means I'm feeling low. And I think so often men can get confused with that just being neutral is a low. And so I think that comes up for me because we have these patterns, right? We go back in and out of these patterns, and anger is a pattern that we have. And so like, if we can like modulate ourselves and come in and lean into it just a little bit and feel what this anger is, and then just lean back just a little bit more and see what it is to be neutral, then we can start to feel even more of like the kick, the high, keep going. Am I making sense there?
Yeah. It reminds me of how we are with body transformation, with fitness. New Year's comes and we set these resolutions. We're all pumped up. We join programs, we buy the equipment, and we want to lose the weight. And then, 1 month in, it's now we hit we give up or we just kind of plateau. Right. And we think that we're not, because we're comparing ourselves to, when we were very active or, the beginning of the journey. And I think with self-betterment, it's the same, people, when they want to grow, they get super excited, which is great. It's coming from an authentic place. But they drink the Kool-Aid, they want to change their lives. And then after, the retreat or the books or the sessions or whatever, they start to plateau,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what we try to do at the Unshakable Man is instill this idea of, you know, every single time that you become aware of your reaction or your response to the world outside of you, that deserves a celebration. That deserves you bringing up like spiking up the dopamine in your head and being like,
Yeah.
awesome, like I recognize that in anything, right? And recognizing like, okay, cool, I'm in a high right now and this feels really good, and like really sitting in this feeling of joy and love and
Mm-hmm.
ecstasy, but also noticing in our lives like, wow, I'm not feeling the love right now, I'm not feeling the joy, I'm not feeling the ecstasy. And that in itself, just recognizing that, is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
celebration in itself. And that in itself allows us um, to kind of put our life and development into perspective, that it's not always going to be this
Right.
huge kickstart.
Right.
And
And when you are either plateauing or in a low, you're right. I mean, awareness, being aware of that, acknowledging that is huge, because what we do is, if we don't do that, then we run away by, our vices. So
right,
we will try to get dopamine in other places, and a lot of
right,
times that's unhealthy. So whether it's sex, drugs, gambling, whatever it is, right? So just being aware that this is where I'm at, and there isn't a crazy dopamine shooting in my brain,
right.
and it's okay. The
And
sky's
it's
not
okay.
falling. Yeah, yeah.
Right, right. Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, go ahead.
oh no. So I was gonna say also in relationships, just because it's not
Yes.
crazy fire chemistry and having afternoon sex and stuff, that it doesn't mean that your relationship is in trouble. you know
Right,
that
right.
that cruise control can be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in an 8-year relationship going on 9. My husband and
Wow.
I have been married for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
And like there we always hear, or growing up I heard, like, in media, like the family unit just kind of like getting kind of stagnant,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
and then that in media is a bad thing, right? Like, this is not
Right.
fulfilling
Right.
anymore, this is not enough, and
Right.
so, oh, something is wrong in our relationship. And the
Right.
reality is my husband and I, we're just constantly evolving with each other, and the things that used to light us up in our relationship don't light us up the same way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, just because we don't have the same kind of highs, or the honeymoon phase, or
Mm-hmm.
the afternoon sex, doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with our relationship. It just means that we're
Yeah.
growing and evolving with each other.
I think it's easy to judge relationships based on our programming, advertising, the movies, and all the stuff, that the blueprints that have made us think that our intimate relationships should be very fantasy, fairy tale,
But
exciting all the
also,
time.
yo, man, but also, like, for us men, right? Our relationship to other men,
Yeah,
right? Like, if
yeah,
we bring this back to men's work, like what we watch on TV, is what's glorified on TV is men pounding each other on the gridiron, or like
yeah,
pinning each other down in the octagon, right?
yeah,
That's glorified, and that is in so many ways, that affection, that touching, is intimacy in so many ways, but it's disguised in this place of violence.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we as men, we naturally want to be with other men. We want to be held by other men. It is part of our development. When we were young boys, right before puberty, it was natural for us to find other boys that were like us, and be best friends with them, and want to tell them that we love them, and like hold them and
yeah.
put our arms around them, and like be
Hmm.
super intimate and affectionate with them. And then, of course, conditioning happens of, the social pressures, and then media telling
Right,
us, you're gay if you do that.
right.
But that feeling of connection never leaves. We always want that.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. I know that when I was going on my journey, after my divorce, I discovered other men had coffee crepes, and for the first time in my life, had conversations about deeper things. And I realized, wow. And it was the first time in my life as a 35-year-old that I didn't judge that. And it wasn't about performance or competition or fighting someone. It was about just talking about our feelings and our struggles. And so it wasn't a retreat. It just happened organically because we were, I'm waving to someone. Sorry. You're like, what is he doing? It happened organically because we were all going through something, right? So that was a common bond. And I realized, this is actually needed. And that's why in my book, I put that mandates are a mandate. And I think it's you're talking about that, which is in our early years, before conditioning, before the locker rooms, before whatever, we had no problem hanging out with our best friend and for hours, playing and doing stuff and hugging each other. And, and then suddenly that was gay, or suddenly that was bad or wrong. Now you should be, chasing after girls.
Right.
And then suddenly,
And for me, as a closeted gay man and having these feelings, for my guy best friends, I was afraid of that because I didn't want them to know my true identity. Right. And so I stopped myself from being affectionate or having kind of intimacy with these guys in my life, because I was afraid that I would out myself in that.
Yeah. And you would be judged. You'd be judged and you'd be pushed away.
Right. That would bring a whole new set of conflicts that I wasn't ready for.
Right.
But we as men, like even today, like the highest demographic of suicides in America are 45 to 65. Why the fuck is that?
Yeah. Right? Well, also men, we as humans have ideation. Men actually execute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so, we look at these guys that are in their 40s to 60s and we ask, what's their community look like? Who can they call on when they are having trouble? Or do they even know how to call on someone when they're having trouble? Right. I like to do this exercise with my clients where I ask them to find someone in their life who I call them your pulled over friend. So if you get pulled over, if you get stuck on a highway, who the fuck are you going to call and who's going to come and get you?
Right.
And if you don't have anyone like that in your life, then it's time for us to figure out who that person is and how we can develop that connection, that relationship with someone. Right? Like we as men, we want someone to have our back. And so often we lean on our partners for them to have our back, to like be our confidant, to be everything for us. And our partners can't be everything. Our partners won't be everything.
No, I think we get something from other men that you can never get. And it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight or whatever, from your partner. Right. And also women too. We get something from our friends that we just don't from who we choose to love. And that's okay.
For sure.
And that's why we need friends, And a lot of times when we get into relationships, if you're monogamous and you're just focusing and revolving your whole life around that one person, you're kind of creating your own prison, and that's that relationship. Then it can't hold that pressure,
Yeah, man. And, I see men out there all the time who feel like they're okay, but miss the connection with other men. They miss their boys. Or they have their boys still and all they do is locker room talk. Right. Or all they do is talk about sports. All they do is talk about guns or beers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they don't go into the nitty gritty of what life is really about.
You know what I love about you, and I think this is what's very powerful about you. Men like you are becoming the bridge. Do you know what I'm saying? The fact that you can grow a full beard like that, man, like that's very manly. I mean, dude, there are no holes in that beard. That shit is like, dude, so I could grow one long hair and wrap that shit in circles. But I mean, look how thick that beard is, man. That's amazing. So in our world, even like something like facial hair is very manly, So, but also at the same time, being gay, right? Yeah. And also at the same time, leading other men, expressing yourself, sharing your struggles, having a history of, sexual abuse, which men don't talk about, right? That puts you into a whole nother category, man. That story sets you up for connection, because now men can relate to you whether they're gay or straight. Men can relate to you whether they are, sensitive or manly or whatever. Whatever
bearded or non-bearded.
Exactly. So I can relate to you, and I can't grow facial hair, and men with long beards can relate to you. So that's what makes you powerful, And I think that's we need men like you to be out in the front in the trenches, because you're going to be able to connect to more men. You're going to be able to throw a wider net because of your story and because of your courage, so you leading by example. And there's a few other men, there's a lot of men doing this, but personally I know, even like Dak Shepard, he is out with his addiction and how he was molested, and also like the guy, like rides motorcycles and does a lot of adventure stuff, but also is very sensitive. Justin Baldoni, he's also someone like that, who's very handsome and actor and abs and all that, but also talks about redefining man, and so.
Well, I think what you're saying is representation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is like growing up as a Filipino American, there wasn't much representation on media for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you could probably agree or relate as a Korean man that there wasn't representation, right? And so I, as a queer man of color who also identifies as more masculine dominant, right? That there is representation for men who say, wow, like I have these like very quote unquote manly things about myself and these masculine attributes about myself, but I also feel that there's this pull to be emotional and be sensitive. And you and I, guys like us who have this like front facing masculine type of look, is accessible to these guys who say, awesome, like I can relate to that guy, and they're doing emotional work and they're talking about their feelings and they have no fucking shame around it. So I can do that too.
Yeah.
And I think that really matters. That really, really matters.
I think that's the way in. And I think what's exciting, and I kind of want to end on this exciting note, is that it's finally happening. I come from a generation where it wasn't that long ago that, Jerry Lewis was taping his eyes back. And I grew up in the 80s when Asians weren't cool. I was one of the few Asians on my block. And I got really lucky, and I didn't get picked on, and I didn't get made fun of because I had an ability. So whether it was skating or breakdancing, I got in through the side door through an ability. But if I didn't have that, I would have been bullied. I would have been picked on. I would have been outcast, and that would have definitely affected me. But yeah, I think now today, and this is also why I really appreciate you, is being a man of color, and working with other men, because there's also not a lot of that, when I was in therapy school, there was no men, but also there were no Korean men. We were all being doctors and engineers and all of that. So I think it makes us responsible. And it seems like both of us we've both swam too far to turn back. So
man.
I'm in it too, man. I'm older than you. I'm your uncle.
No, you're my older brother, bro.
Crazy uncle. But yeah, man, a giant fist bump to you. And I think we're kind of both waving the same flag, which is exciting. And yeah, thank you for being on my podcast. I hope this is the beginning of a meaningful relationship. And thank you for being so honest and open.
Yeah, man. And thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks for reaching out. And,
yeah, of course.
I'm so happy that we finally got to connect.
Yeah. And we'll talk about off air, what I need my friends to do and how you can get them to do that.
Cool. You guys listening out there, you watch out. Planting the seeds.
All right, Mike, have a good one. Be well.
You too, brother.
All right, man. Wait, let me stop.